Today I want to talk about something that's harder to see, but just as powerful as any external challenge I've faced: self-stigma. It's the way I've learned to judge myself, sometimes more harshly than anyone else ever could, and it's a struggle I know many of us go through. This internal battle between who we are and who we think we should be. Self-stigma isn't just about what others think of me. It's about what I've come to believe about myself. Over time, the world has told us what's acceptable and what's not. It's taught me directly or indirectly that certain feelings, struggles, or behaviors make me less. That if I'm anxious, depressed, or struggling with something others can't see, then I should hide it. Somehow, admitting I'm not okay makes me weak and flawed. What I've realized is that this idea doesn't come from nowhere. It's something that's been woven into our culture, our relationships, and even how we talk to ourselves. I started to take the things society has labeled as weakness or failure and internalize them, believing that these labels were true, and worse, that they define me. The hardest part of self-stigma is that it makes me my own judge and jury. Even when no one else is around, that voice in my head is there, reminding me of all the ways I'm falling short. I'll hear things like, "You're not enough," or "You're a burden to others," or "If you can't fix it, you're failing." I know that none of these thoughts are helpful, and yet they can be so persuasive. Over time, self-stigma becomes the cage. It keeps me from reaching out for help, because I'm convinced I should be able to handle it on my own. It keeps me from showing my true self to those I love, because I don't want them to see what I'm hiding inside. It tells me that I don't deserve compassion, that I need to earn care by being better, doing more, or getting rid of my struggles. This cage becomes so familiar that after a while it's hard to see a way out. But here's what I've come to understand. Self-stigma thrives in isolation. The more I keep my struggles hidden, the more they grow, and that's because self-stigma feeds on shame. Shame, by its nature, tells us that something about who we are is inherently wrong. Not just what I've done, but who I am. It's that heavy feeling in my chest that whispers, "You're not enough." The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote that we each have to face our own truths, no matter how uncomfortable they are. And for me, part of facing my truth is recognizing that self-stigma is a lie. It's not that I'm broken or unworthy, it's that I've absorbed the messages of a world that's quick to judge and slow to understand. Jean-Paul Sartre spoke about how we often feel as if we are being watched, judged by the gaze of others. I found that even when no one is watching, I've internalized that gaze. I judge myself, expecting perfection, expecting strength at all times. But living under that constant watchful eye is exhausting. It's a pressure that no one can sustain. The real challenge I found is to interrupt that cycle. It's to stop and say to myself, wait, where did these ideas about my worth come from? And most importantly, do they even make sense? One thing I've had to learn is that being human means being flawed, imperfect. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche said, "You must become who you are." But becoming who I am doesn't mean becoming perfect. It means accepting the parts of myself that are raw, real, and sometimes uncomfortable. Self-stigma has made me think that my value is tied to being fixed. But what if my worth is inherent? What if it's not something I need to earn or prove, but something that's already there, just by being me? It's a difficult shift, but it starts with small steps. It starts with challenging the thoughts that tell me I'm not enough, and reminding myself that I don't have to be perfect to be deserving of kindness, especially from myself. Another thing I've learned is the power of vulnerability. For so long I thought that being vulnerable was dangerous, that if I showed my cracks, people would see me as weak. But when we begin to realize that vulnerability is where true strength lies, it's in those moments when I admit to myself and to others I'm struggling and I need help that I find freedom. When I open up, it's not weakness, it's courage. It's saying, this is who I am, with all my scars and uncertainties, and I'm still worthy of love and support. I've learned that vulnerability is not about oversharing or being reckless with my emotions. It's about being honest. Honest with myself about what I'm feeling, and honest with others about what I need. In that honesty, I've found connection, understanding, and a reminder that I'm not alone. So, how do I move beyond self-stigma? I don't have all the answers, but I do know that it starts with compassion. Not just the kind of compassion I offer others, but the kind I extend to myself. For so long, I've been so hard on myself, judging my every misstep, expecting perfection in a world that doesn't give anyone the tools to be perfect. But self-compassion isn't about excusing everything or letting myself off the hook. It's about understanding that I'm human, and like all humans, I'm allowed to struggle, to falter, and to ask for help. Self-stigma tells me I'm not enough, but the truth is I don't have to be enough by anyone else's standards. I just have to be real. I have to be me, in all my complexity. Thank you for walking with me through these thoughts today. If you've ever struggled with self-stigma, I hope you remember that reaching out for help and being kind to yourself are brave acts. It might not always feel easy, but we don't have to carry these burdens alone. There's strength in vulnerability, and there's freedom in learning to accept ourselves just as we are. Thank you for walking with me through these thoughts today. If you've ever struggled with self-stigma, I hope you remember that reaching out for help and being kind to yourself are brave acts. It might not always feel easy, but we don't have to carry these burdens alone. There's strength in vulnerability, and there's freedom in learning to accept ourselves just as we are.